Formula One is a marketer's dream. Global, glamorous, and very popular. Every other weekend, over 500 million viewers tune in to watch a spectacle that has everything: danger, excitement, and extreme competition.
It is a charismatic sport. It's colourful, it's high-stepping, it's fast-moving, it's noisy, it's dangerous, it commands a passionate following.
Where the viewers go, so the corporates follow. Every car, every corner is a marketing opportunity.
Money just oozes in Formula One. It goes in all directions you wouldn't think possible.
No other sport can rival Formula One for regular global exposure and networking opportunities.
The ultimate global platform, and from Formula One you can spread it to any area that you like.
On this episode of Formula for Success, we look at how F1 became the market leader in sports branding, how it continues to set the standard, and what we can expect in the future. Nothing in Formula One comes cheap. From the cars to the drivers and even the lavish parties the teams put on to lure the sponsors.
The total spend of all 11 Formula One teams is about 2.6 to 2.8 billion US dollars per year. Now that's raised from sponsorship.
Formula One was way ahead of the game when it came to recognising the potential of corporate relationships. It started back in 1968 when Colin Chapman's Lotus team signed Imperial Tobacco as a sponsor.
And because television coverage was increasing and general media coverage, and Team Lotus was the first team to say, right, well, instead of having them green, we'll paint them in any colour you like, as long as you pay us some money.
The teams suddenly saw that this was manna from heaven. It was suddenly an opportunity they'd never even envisaged before. Here they were able to go out, source commercial funding in a manner that they'd never even dreamed of.
At the forefront of this commercial boom were the tobacco firms, in particular Philip Morris's Marlboro brand.
At the time, every tobacco brand and quite a lot of other product categories were trying to be seen as international. Formula One at that time had developed from being an afternoon out at a track into becoming a sporting event that was really attracting international attention.
The increase in the branding went hand in hand with global expansion of Formula One. As the television coverage increased around the world, the image of tobacco branding on cars would create a lasting impact on an audience that was becoming hooked on the sport.
The Gold Leaf sponsorship lasted from 68 through until 1971, and it was so successful that the sponsor decided to create a specific brand to promote just on the back of Formula One, and that's when the John Player Special brand came along, the black and gold. And I understand that it's still one of the top 10 recognised sponsorship brands, although it hasn't been in Formula One since 1986.
John Player did a survey, and 10 years later, people in the street still believe that JPS were a brand that sponsored a Formula One team. And quite clearly, it becomes synonymous. Marlboro McLaren was the team of the 1980s. The Rothmans-Williams Renault team was the team of the 90s. When you turn on the TV every single weekend, you get this repeating thing about McLaren, about Williams, about Renault, about Ferrari, and it rubs off on people. It sticks in their minds as international brand.
Health concerns over smoking led to tighter regulation in the 1990s, and the association between Formula One and the tobacco companies had to end. A new era was beginning, with a new, more upmarket set of sponsors.
Every person, every product, every property, every idea has its life. Tobacco went through its life. I think the sport has changed to a level of sophistication, and it needs brands and it needs companies that represent today's world and today's lifestyle in order to propagate its message.
Formula One has now grown into a global industry that oozes glamour and exclusivity. It appeals to an audience that many blue-chip companies are desperate to reach. The sport is run as a business and has always gone where the sponsors want it to go. And now, that's to the emerging markets of the East.
The global piece was very important to us. In fact, to be more specific, we wanted something that was going to be strong in Asia, the Middle East, where we're growing. And that's where we felt that Formula One gave us pretty much a unique presence.
We were in championship football, we were at Olympics, we've done quite a few things. But there's much more that Formula One brings. It is a global promotional platform and we can roll it out worldwide.
Formula One is a very good tool to inform the consumers about the technology and about the quality of the Petrobras products.
Banks and telecommunication firms weren't alone in jumping on the bandwagon. Major car manufacturers saw the potential as well. Many had been conspicuous by their absence since the late 1950s, but now saw an opportunity to promote and enhance their brand.
The reason for them being in F1, the reason for them having that presence on the grid, is primarily to drive business in another area of operation. Essentially, they are part of the marketing departments of large multinational companies. Primarily, the reason for them being there is brand awareness and brand cues that then drive metal on the streets, the cars that you or I might buy.
With the injection of revenues from car manufacturers and multinational corporations, the running costs of the team spiraled. But for the manufacturers, it was a small price to pay.
I think for the car manufacturers, it has become a must to be in Formula One, because in their competitive world, you have to prove to your consumer what you stand for. In the world of Formula One, you are at the pinnacle of the motor industry. If you're not there, you don't belong.
And the manufacturers see that the exposure and cachet that comes with running a competitive Formula One team is something you just can't put a price on.
Mr. Honda said we're a racing company first. That's because racing is so challenging, and if we can win and compete in racing, we will use the same methods and the same people to win and compete in the marketplace. We've also seen the benefit from a marketing perspective. Honda races, and we also market the fact that Honda races.
The return of the manufacturers has seen the demise of the smaller and independent teams. Currently, only one truly private venture, Williams, still remains. As long as the costs keep rising, the smaller teams will keep struggling.
If you're running a small team in Formula One, first of all, you've got to be able to exist and survive. That's the first thing. And we all know the history of names, the catalogue of names that haven't survived, because, you know, Formula One's not called the Piranha Club by accident. I can see all of the manufacturers, all of the 6 manufacturers currently in Formula One ending up with a B team, and therefore there will be no independence in Formula One.
The only way the smaller teams can stop this scenario from happening is to keep bringing in the sponsorship, and that means building their own brand. To do this, they need to survive long enough in the sport, and that means finding a way of drawing the sponsors from the bigger fish.
One of the main elements that Spiker tries to offer to the sponsors that maybe some of the other big teams aren't able to do is the opportunity to smell it, feel it, touch it, come and live the experience with the team over a weekend.
If I was a small team commercial director, I can give you access to a very restricted, very privileged area of global sport where you and your guests can rub shoulders with some of the world's richest, most famous people, and you can do things with your customer base that no equal amount of money will buy them in any other sporting field around the world. I consider that to be fantastic value for money for my clients and for the image of my business, because if I'm in it, I must be a big business because it's an expensive sport to be in.
Sponsorship is just as integral for Formula One as the cars and the drivers. Both small and large teams compete for the corporate dollar, and in return, they try to offer ultimate brand value. After the break, we look at 3 different approaches to branding and sponsorship and ask what might lie ahead for the teams and the sport. Formula One has been at the forefront of branding opportunities since the 1960s. It's gone from an industry dominated by tobacco advertising to becoming the darling of blue-chip business. No sport enjoys such an unrivaled global image of luxury and exclusivity.
If you've got the aspiration to be the top brand in your category, you want to be associated with the top sporting property. So it's a fantastic fit. No other sport can offer that opportunity.
When it comes to branding, F1 is and always has been ahead of the game. Everything is done with business in mind. It thinks like a business because for all but 2 hours on Sunday afternoon, it is a business.
Formula One is a sport from lights to flag. The rest of the time, it is a dog-eat-dog business like no other.
Every square inch on the car and every corner on the track is a potential marketing opportunity. What goes where and at what cost is a science, supported by a mass of statistical analysis.
Not only is the branding on the car completely television visible, so you get to the opportunity whenever you watch a race and that car is in shot, you can quite clearly see Lenovo, you can see RBS, you can see ING, you can see Vodafone very clearly. Then you know that that is a Tier 1 sponsorship.
Companies will pay for any exposure, whether it be on the track, in the paddock, or on the driver's apparel. But the premium placement is reserved for the car itself.
The most expensive parts of the car are the rear wing and the side pods. And the rear wing is about 15-20 million. Now that, for a top team, can double if that is the total sponsor. The side pods may be about 15 million, so the sides of the car. The front nose of the car, about 5-10. The rear wing sides, 3 to 5 million. Then you have niche areas like the top of the wing mirrors. The top of the wing mirrors are often seen because they have the camera on the top of the car facing down, so you can see clearly the top of the wing mirrors, so they can go for as much as 5 million.
But branding isn't just about exposure, it's about identity. What one team represents is not necessarily true of another. They target different audiences and appeal to different sponsors. In Williams, everything from the colour to the clientele is part of a tailor-made package.
You say, look, come and be part of the team. Come and race with us. But recognise that in doing so, you become part of a community of partners who are in the business as much to do business with each other and to drive business, commercial relationships with each other as they are for brand awareness. And I think there are very few teams on the grid that can offer that kind of proposition.
With the average deal costing over $3 million, sponsors want to buy into a brand that represents their corporate identity. In Williams, sponsors see a company steeped in history and integrity.
I see so many parallels because Lenovo started with 11 people in a garage in 1984, and look at where we are today, the third largest PC company. As a marketeer, I appreciate strong brands. Williams is a strong brand. Number two, I think if you look at Frank Williams, he epitomizes integrity. And I'd say the third thing that I think of is that Williams is really a team that exists to win races and for engineering. And we are all about engineering. So that fit also, I think, is very, very strong.
One of the strongest pulls for a sponsor is the colour match. In Williams, the Royal Bank of Scotland found their perfect brand partner.
When you go into a business of this kind, first of all, there is the corporate identity, which for any large multinational corporation is very important, and happened to be blue and white as their choice of colour. That fitted in very well with Royal Bank of Scotland. They, for example, could have gone to McLaren, but they were silver and black, and that naturally wouldn't have been nearly as attractive.
The livery on the car is a networking family tree. One of the perks of joining is access to like-minded businesses, both in the paddock and at functions organised by the team. The opportunities for partners are priceless.
What was important to us were who are the other sponsors in a team. And when we looked at companies like Vodafone, Mercedes, Hugo Boss, all of these companies are the kind of companies that we want to have relationships with and we do various business-to-business deals with.
But while a Williams car sports 12 brand names, the Honda Formula One team has broken with tradition and replaced branding on the car with an image of the Earth. It's the brainchild of 19 Entertainment.
The Earth car came about through two real fundamental things. First of all, with Honda, they're amongst the leaders in the car companies in terms of their environmental technology and their social responsibility. And the second thing we did was we looked at really the issues that people around the world were interested in, and we found that the environment was the theme that not only was one of the strongest, but was the one that was growing.
In launching the Earth car, Honda didn't lose any of their existing sponsors.
The reaction among sponsors was generally positive. If you take Ray-Ban, our sunglass sponsor, their chief executive got it immediately. When you talk to a company that makes machine tools, which are just going to be used in the factory, it requires more explanation. But the beauty of the Earth car idea is that the environmental message is important to everyone.
And while removing sponsors' logos may not be embraced by everyone or even be a sign of future trends, the idea behind it has been applauded by some as a potentially lucrative campaign.
The Honda team have bucked the trend here. They've gone out in a very, very brave move. I mean, it's incredible, and I think if their brand gets it right, partners with the right team, and they display their green credentials very honestly and very clearly, or at least show they're trying to do something to improve it, well then that's a huge opportunity for a brand.
The reality is that only a team with the financial might of a major car manufacturer can afford to pull off a stunt like the Earth car. The car is a team's ultimate marketing tool. It's where the camera focuses and where a brand can get international recognition. If proof was needed that branding works, one needs to look no further than an energy drink that 3 years ago was practically unheard of. Red Bull was unique. It was a rare foray into the sport by a consumer brand, and its marketing campaign took the paddock by storm.
The Star Wars campaign worked extremely well. We had several members of the cast along with us to the Grand Prix, including Chewbacca in the pits and several stormtroopers on the hospitality unit for Red Bull. So it was an ideal collaboration. It generated a huge amount of media, a huge amount of interest.
And their vibrant presence in the paddock, along with their headline-grabbing approach, hasn't gone unnoticed.
The Formula One paddock is always influenced by one or two big sponsors who define the entertainment world of Formula One. Big parties, a lot of celebrities coming in, and this role is now being taken over by Red Bull. They have redefined a lot of the marketing in Formula One.
Red Bull has turned the traditional team and sponsor relationship on its head. As a result, the sponsor is aware of its power and is starting to call the shots.
Shareholder is also our major sponsor. Obviously Red Bull dominates the car at the present moment, so in terms of brand awareness and in terms of introducing schemes such as the Star Wars initiative or Wings for Life, it offers a complete flexibility to allow us to do that.
Red Bull may have paid just $1 for Jaguar Racing in 2005, but they agreed to pour in over $400 million over the next 3 years. And with the struggle of survival and the costs of running a successful team ever increasing, consumer brands may have an important part to play.
Nobody quite knew, what this independent drinks company was all about. So I think Formula One has benefited a great deal from Red Bull's light-hearted approach. And whilst we're light-hearted in our approach, it doesn't mean that we're light-hearted about our seriousness to be competitive and serious competitors on the circuit. I think you'll see more consumer brands coming into Formula One over the next few years.
But could we see the day that other brands take the lead from Red Bull and exclusively control teams? Could Formula One follow other sports like sailing, where boats are named after sponsors? Will Red Bull one day line up against the likes of Microsoft on the Formula One grid?
Clearly the power of the brand has become, in the Western world, all-consuming. And all of the teams have done incredibly well now at promoting that brand. And that brand has a value. Formula One teams today are brands, fact.
As the world's most popular annual sporting event, Formula One continues to be the first port of call for many multinationals looking to build their brand. The sport is synonymous with quality, expertise and glamour, ideals it shares with its corporate partners. Its position at the pinnacle of both sport and marketing is unlikely to be challenged while it operates as a business. Where its future lies is down to the teams and their own commercial interests. But whether it's with the manufacturers or brands like Red Bull, the Formula One success story hasn't finished yet. In the next show, we look at talent and how both teams and business spot and train and ultimately retain the best personnel.